but when I think about reparative work and louder than silence, I think this is why we exist. Um, that we long for and are wanting to move towards healing for ourselves, for and for others. Like we want healing for other people. We want healing for every single community member.
Welcome to the Louder Than Silence podcast with your host, CG Wagner. This episode is part of the series From Survivor to Leader, where the other staff members and I are having discussions about all things LTS and what it means to be leading the work in long-term care for survivors of sexual violence. It's a mix of our own personal experiences, the work that our team does, and how those two things impact each other. Our hope is that survivors feel seen and validated, and supporters gain a deeper understanding of what the healing process looks like. Our episode today is Defining What Matters. In our work as survivors and as people, it's important to understand what our values are. Our values indicate how we make decisions and what we prioritize. It takes time and introspection to navigate what it is that we come back to naturally time and time again. This is the process that we recently went through with LTS, working alongside community members to define what alignment in our work means. With me today, I have our development manager, Brittany, our program manager, Joe, and our social media and marketing manager, Christy, which is just such a lovely group of people. All right, friends. So we are talking about our new values. So, what do these things mean for you, for your work? What does it look like in your life? So, we are going to jump off with reparative. So, for LTS, we define that as we strive for healing for ourselves and for each other.
So when I think of reparative, my mind actually jumps to like not rocking the boat and like this really unhealthy version of like making sure that all relationships stay together or this as many people in our community, I was not taught healthy boundaries. So when I think of reparative, I got at the first thought is like this really unhealthy version of reparative, where like you strive for a relationship to stay together even if a person is being harmful. But with LTS, I've learned that that is not what reparative means. Um, and repair is, like to make something functional again. And so boundaries can be really important when repairing to make sure that like, there's balance for something to function. It needs to be well balanced and all the things. Um, and so I like this, like striving to heal ourselves first and foremost, because a healthy person has boundaries and doesn't let somebody walk all over them. Um, and then if a relationship can be repaired, then we work to repair it. And to repair a relationship, it takes both sides wanting to be healthy, and find that way of like, again, finding balance, learning how to respect each other's differences and needs. And because LTS specifically is like a community, one of the biggest parts of what we are is having survivors learn how to have relationships, build a community, um, being able to like have the normal um, fights or struggles or whatever that like come up naturally in a relationship because nobody's perfect. Learning to repair in a healthy way is a very big part of having a community with many people, especially many traumatized people like myself. um, and so it is a big part of what we do as a community is wanting to learn how to have healthy boundaries and how to repair in a healthy way and not in a codependent, allowing abuse sort of way, which like I said would be my original indoctrinated way of being. But now having like a healthy idea of repairing myself first and then learning how to repair in relationships.
Joe, that was beautifully said. Yeah, I think when people or when I think of healing, I don't instinctively think of boundaries, but it has been such a big part, and I feel like it's a common thread with survivors are the potential lack of boundaries, lack of being taught boundaries. And yeah, I mean, for me personally, I didn't even understand the word until I was 40. But when I think about reparative work and louder than silence, I think this is why we exist. Um, that we long for and are wanting to move towards healing for ourselves, for and for others. Like we want healing for other people. We want healing for every single community member. And the thing that I've learned from LTS is that healing is very much ongoing, that it isn't linear. I truly believed, and I shared this before, that when I signed up for my first cohort, I was going to do the cohort and I would be healed. And it's just, that's not reality. There was so much healing within my first cohort, and there was so much healing in EMDR therapy. And I had that same um, misguided concept of healing with EMDR. I would go for a few sessions and I'd be healed. Um, but healing ebbs and flows, and it's blurry, and it can be really messy, to be honest. But I also believe that's the reason, the exact reason why LTS is so vital, because when you're in community with people who have either walked through your shoes or walking through something similar, there's strength and there's hope. And one doesn't have to face healing alone, and one doesn't have to walk through healing alone, which for me personally, I to think about walking through healing by myself and not with this community. Because I have very good, well-intentioned friends and family that love me that also don't understand. And they want to walk alongside me, and they can as far as they can go. But when you're walking with people who uh, share something so big, um, and the healing that is so big that comes alongside it, it's different. And I don't think I could have walked through my healing without our community. I don't think I would have had the courage for it. Um, So that's what I think of when I'm thinking of the reparative work that LTS stands for.
Those are both very beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm like, how do you follow up? I was like, I would say all those things and I didn't even know to say them, which is why it's just so beautiful. So the thing that came to mind in that like embodiment of like a reparative posture would be, um, you know, one of the things that we say, which is it's it's the healing for ourselves first, right? Like as we begin the work, then it opens up space and capacity to be able to um, do that with others in a healthier way. Because I thought the same thing that Joe thought, which is originally I was like, oh, like when I first saw reparative, I was like, oh, like I'm just supposed to do the thing and make it okay, and that's not reparative. And so, but that's also just like my default that I would think of. And so in that strive, like the way that I kind of conceptualize it is in that striving towards healing for myself, like what Britt was saying, you can have this idea. And I think some of it's like culturally kind of put on us, right? Like do these 5 steps and then you're going to be okay. And you'll be able to do the thing and move on and all the things. And so I think it's like ingrained in our environment that it should be quick and fast. And so there's something very beautiful that comes out of the like consistent walk of walking towards healing. Like there's a lot of areas that I've healed. There's areas I'm still, because we're in Texas, still healing, like there are things that I'm still doing. And then there's ways that I show up for others that I'm like, oh, I can tell that I've healed a lot because I'm able to show up this way. And then there's areas where I'm like, okay, wait, that's still a work. And then there's just the things that we don't know. And the like the clinical part of me likes to kind of sit there and think in terms of like with reparative and like is like new things will keep coming up because I have a capacity now to handle the new thing or to learn the new thing, whereas before I didn't. And have y'all ever seen this? Have I showed y'all this before? It's kind of crazy cool. So this is like really, really cool. It's my favorite thing to show people. So like when you begin the process of healing, right? Striving, I'm like being a teacher right now. Striving towards healing, right? There's a small little part of expansion that occurs as we heal. And the discomfort, we retract back, right? Because it feels uncomfortable. And so we're just like gradually, as we work in that healing process, right, we're gradually expanding. If we went all the way out here at one point in time, first of all, with all that vulnerability and we haven't established trust, like we're not going to be able to maintain that. And so thanks for letting me be a teacher. But I always think of that. Like I have that just kind of goes in my mind of like every little step towards healing whenever things come to mind, or when you're walking alongside friends or people in our community, and when you're walking alongside others, like I kind of picture that just like, oh yeah, that's why they would probably want to retract, because like that felt really uncomfortable. Okay, what was uncomfortable about the thing? Right? Oh, it felt very vulnerable. Well, do you trust the space that you're in? Right? Because if you can be, we've all been taught to be vulnerable without trust. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking for just myself. Maybe that was just my lesson, but like we've all been taught to be like this, almost like vulnerability without actually having a rooted trust. And so I think it's as we establish that like rooted trust in whatever our process is, we're able to have that vulnerability with others. And so then we're like doing that. We're striving towards our own healing and striving towards the healing, work that others are also pursuing. And then there's like this whole reparative process that's occurring, almost like in the undercurrent of it all. Yeah, that is all.
I feel sad that I don't have visual aids for my answer. I feel like I really missed out on that one. Oh, your answers are wonderful. Um, since I had the time to hear all of yours, I could come up with something a slightly different direction, which is thinking about when I first got into this like healing work for myself, that I had this idea of like the things that were like bad that needed to be fixed, that were things like feeling overwhelmed or like my anxiety, stuff like that. And then it was eventually realizing that all of that were the symptoms. They weren't the actual root thing that had to be addressed. And so, like, I didn't even know for the first couple of years that what I was doing was not actually repair. It was like trying to cope with the like manifestations of what the actual problem was. And so once I kind of saw that, like, oh, the feeling of being overwhelmed is not the actual issue, then I feel like that's when I actually started doing repair work, because it was okay, here are all of the reasons why the overwhelm is the response. And so like let's actually address those things. And once I made the like concerted effort to say, I will figure out what the root cause is and then untangle that mess, that's when the symptoms got more and more relieved. So it's not that I have zero moments of overwhelm, because, like, let's be honest, life does what life's gonna do. Um, and I think that is also how we approach things with LTS as well. It's holding space for the like, yes, I understand that what you're experiencing right now is like very tough and challenging and painful. And like, here's the thing underneath it that we want to make sure we're not just like glossing over constantly and then just like managing the symptoms for, the rest of time. And that's what I really like about the concept of being reparative. It's being willing to even create the space to sit with what is happening here. And it's not just like automatically jumping into action, but recognizing that part of repair work is sometimes just like sitting and allowing the space for the clarity of what the next steps should be. Should. Don't want to should on anybody, but like might be beneficial. All right. So our next value is enduring. So we understand that healing may take a lifetime and we commit to lasting support.
Thinking about this one, it's interesting because I feel like what what the three of you said in your reparative kind of points towards the need for this to be enduring. Um, because like Brittany said that like we have this idea, and I think that that it is part of culture that tells us like go to the doctor, take your medicine, and magically you're healed. And so we sometimes implement that into like mental health. The idea that like I just need a prescription and the prescription's this 12-week course with LTS, and cool, afterwards I can be like stamped healed and never have to deal with it again. Um, but as Brittany alluded to, that's not exactly how it works, right? And then, as Christy said, like the needing to build trust, like that takes time. It takes time for relationships to prove that they are safe for another level of vulnerability. Um, because, like, it is not healthy to just like meet someone and be like, here's all my vulnerable parts and I don't even know if you can handle them or if you are safe to know about them. Um, and then what CG said too is that there's kind of that like second layer. It's kind of like once you are out of this survival, like just dealing with the overwhelm, then you start to be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed by. And then you have the list of like the things that are causing you harm or continuing to make your healing not possible, or things that need to maybe be removed before you can actually repair. Um, and so that's why it is really important for LTS to be something that's like in it for the long haul. Um, and as a nonprofit, like it can be interesting to a lot of people want the pretty numbers. The like, these many people have graduated, or this many people have gone through and are, quote, better. But when you're talking about a community for this type of violence, like chances are people may need our support forever, and like that is just the reality. um and so it's important because we are all survivors, we understand that, and we know that like they will I will always want the people who can sit in this space with me. I will always want the people that like when something flares up these trauma responses or brings back the memories or whatever it is, that I know that there is safe people that I can go to. um I will always want those relationships that the trust has been built into, so that when I want to retract, I at least still have like those few people in that bubble because like they've proven that they can be in that inner circle. Um, but yeah, that takes a lot of time. And so that is why it's important for us at Louder Than Silence to be here for our community for the long haul. Um, and I think that our community, like, I think that we've started to prove that. CG can speak to like how the normal turnover of like nonprofits and how a lot of them don't make it past however long. But also like having the now staff are all people who have gone through it and believe in it to the level of like you can't get rid of me. Like I'm not going anywhere. Um, because this is something that like I it saved my life. Like it changed my life. It was something that I absolutely needed. And so I know that it is needed. And I know that it is needed again, not for like a moment in time, but like for possibly a lifetime for some people. I think it's needed for a lifetime for me. Um, so yeah, I think I'm done rambling.
Yeah, I think to your point, Joe, that our community in particular is not a one and done. Like it's not, even if people come into it thinking that's going to be the case, they will soon learn that we have all been here for years. And a good chunk of our community, we had the retreat a couple of weekends ago, and um, you see familiar faces that you might not even be in touch with, but annually. And you know that they're showing up to continue to do the hard things, to stand alongside one another, to do the hard things. Um, we have to be long lasting, and a source of I agree with you, lifetime of relationship and support. And um, yeah, with my work, sharing and communicating that can be a little bit challenging, because high numbers, like spark attention and help engage people. And although I'm very proud of our numbers, and I'm very proud of it's can be a little difficult communicating the breadth of work and how far reaching it is into people's lives. Um, Trauma issues, as Joe spoke to, can come up, like triggers can come up. Life happens, life happens, and from like highs and lows, divorces and deaths to life and babies and growing and school and um, it's amazing to be in a community where we can do that. But with all of those big things, can trauma issues can come back up and bubble up to the surface, and things that you think that you have resolved. I'm speaking for me in particular, even over the last 6 months that I thought I addressed and I thought was wrapped up and done, come out, and I just never would have expected that I'd have the strength to continue to do the healing, continue to do the hard thing, and face them, um, without the support of LTS. Like truly, it comes down to it. Without the support of honestly these three people right here, but others in LTS, in our LTS community. And the thing is that we stand alongside one another, we support each other, we see each other, which is just huge. And with that, we're able to shoulder the heavy things that life brings, life continues to bring, apart from our trauma or embedded with it. Um, Nobody can do the work for you. Like everyone is responsible for doing our own work. But when you have someone or someone's right there alongside you, it's fortifying. We remind each other of our strength, of our resilience, of our endurance. And when you're seen, when people who truly know what it takes to do the work that is required of us, it's empowering. It's empowering beyond words.
I'm just going to say after every single one, I'm going to say it's beautiful. Um, like just repeat all of those, just rewind, because you need to hear it again. I would 100% say that the enduring part is so necessary. So it's not even from a trauma component, right? I mean, it is. And also it is, it is knowing that like no matter what life brings, that I can reach out to the people that I would like you three. I could reach out to the people, right, that I've connected with, or like a special Maddie, I mean, just those special people, right, that you can reach out to. And I know that they're not going anywhere, and I know they're not going to try to fix it. And I know it's just going to be um, like a listening ear, because sometimes some of us are really big verbal processors. I don't know who would be that, but I am, maybe. And so, like, sometimes it's just hearing it and then being like, oh, yeah, I connected the thing. And so now it's like, it's totally fine. Um, that lifetime commitment, or for whatever it looks like, and for forever, how long, um, in that space and time, right? Like, these people that you're growing in community with, they are also growing and changing at different rates. And so someone had mentioned, I think it was at the retreat, they kind of talked about like that broad spectrum of where people are in their process at the retreat. And it was just kind of profound to me, like, yeah, there are people in like all kinds of different spaces in this process. And I would say, from a whatever little, not clinical perspective, just like a human perspective, when there has been like an instability for those that have navigated hurt and harm as kids and didn't have that uh, like trusting attachment pieces, right? Of like, that this person's not going to go somewhere, or whatever it might be. It speaks volumes, the work that's being done, because you recognize that, like, LTS as an organization, like, I remember even at one point being like, well, how many sessions do I have of EMDR before I need to be done? Um, and CG just being like, I mean, it's whatever it takes. And I was like, wait, what? Like, it's not just like 6 and you should have your crap figured out, Christy, like, or 8, or, because in other spaces, like, it's like 6 or 8. And then it's like 6 or 8 and you should be done. On the numbers front, numbers don't equate good care. Right. So, like, you can have big orgs and you can have all, like, oh my gosh, we served all these people. That's incredible. And also, that doesn't equate that you cared for them well, that you showed up well, that they understood, what they were doing in that program process, whatever. And so, while numbers look pretty for people who, support work being done by orgs, numbers don't equate good care. What I think equates good care is seeing the people who come back every year. I've either been to 5 or 6 of them. And so to, like, look around, and I may not communicate like text or whatever with someone throughout the year. I see them every year and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like, it's so awesome to see you. Or I see the growth. Like, you can starkly see the growth between a year for somebody, you know. Um, and so that's always fascinating to me. And it's, have you ever heard like the saying, like, oh, I have this best friend and we may not talk every day, but like when we talk on the phone, it's like we never lost space, right? And it's because we're all busy in our lives also, right? Like, we all have lives happening. And then we also have this part of our lives that, like, when we get to sit with these people, meaning like all of us, right? Um, it it's like, oh, that didn't skip a beat. Like, that's kind of crazy. And that there's a lot of beauty in that, yeah.
There is a lot of beauty in that. I agree. I remember having a conversation with a friend several years ago about LTS and where we were, and this exact thing of trying to describe the like long-term component of it. And her response was, "Oh, it's a Disney princess hug." And I'm like, what are you talking about?" And she's like, the training that the Disney princesses get is that they can't break the hug. The kids have to decide that they're done, and the kids are the ones who have concluded if what like they've had enough hugs from the princesses. And she's like, so you're offering Disney princess hugs. Like you will stand there and hug as long as people say that they need it. And I'm like, yeah, that that is what we're offering. That we're not telling people how long that they need to be connected to us. And we will keep being here for as long as they say they need it or want it. And I really love that concept because it does show the like we're in it. Like tears and laughter and like snot on your shoulder and all of it. Like we are here for it. And when we talk about enduring, I think that that's also how humans do connect on those deeper levels, right? That it is in the years and decades that allows for the possibility of like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing because I haven't experienced it for 8 years, but like now here it is again. And so I can like share that part of myself as well. And I think that that is a key component to the enduring piece is there's so many seasons of life and so many ups and downs that the having a consistent person or people to say like I know no matter what these people will celebrate with me and they will cry with me is just knowing that changes people's lives. Like even if they choose to not actively engage, just knowing you're not alone and that there is somebody who is there makes a big difference for sure. So, Disney princess hugs, ladies.
I feel like we need a t-shirt that says, I give Disney princess hugs
I mean,
or
I'm
something.
assuming those are copyrighted, so we
They
probably,
probably are.
yeah.
Even if we misspelled Disney or something.
Yeah. All right, so the next one, and let's see if we can hit the last two before our time. Our next one is that our work is survivor led. So we rely on the wisdom and confidentiality of the LTS healing community to shape our work.
I'm gonna be good and just talk about this. I was looking at the time, dear. I was like, oh, I have so many things I could say. Um, so I love that the way that we do our work, like the fact that we understand that peer support is what we bring to the table. Like we encourage therapy and we encourage people to like seek professional help, but like we bring that community that like you and I are in it together. And with that mindset, like to be in it together means that the community members also have a voice in what we are offering and what we are bringing to the table. So even like with these values that we as LTS have come to, like we did this through participants all having a say and deciding if they wanted to show up and help us create the values. Um, because like that's the level of care and participation that we want as a nonprofit. Like we want to adapt to what the community is telling us that they want and need, and the only way to do that is to like keep our ears open and actively listen to critiques and change and adapt. And sometimes as somebody who like has worked really long to create curriculum or create a program, like it can be a little hard to be like, oh, you want me to change that whole thing that I already put work into? But what is the best is to like always be sharpening the thing, like always be changing it to make it better instead of growing stagnant. Um, and so that's why it's so important for us to adapt as the community changes and grows. Yeah.
For me, one of the pieces of this is that it when I started as a staff member with LTS, understanding that all of the staff um, had, well, and I had been through cohorts with all the members of the staff, but that we were all survivors who had been through the cohorts, who had been through EMDR, and that the community members who were leading cohorts had also, done so. It's just to be a part of something where people who have walked in your shoes, who love what we're doing so much that, for us to do this, no matter how many hours we're working, we're saying no to other things because this work is so important and because we feel so much purpose in this work. And the volunteers who feel so much purpose in this work, it's amazing. Because we've walked in each other's shoes, we really truly understand the value of confidentiality. Um, when I began my first cohort, there were very few people I trusted with even knowing that I was doing this cohort and this very big thing. And now so the confidentiality piece was very important to me, is what I'm trying to communicate. And now I'm obviously very open to sharing, but I understand and respect and honor other people's need for confidentiality. Like I understand the importance of it, and where that lands, even in this space right here. I'm, for those listening, like holding near my heart. And we tend to not know everybody's reason or story even for needing that confidentiality piece. And it could range from family members to their kids or exes or work, or just the fact that they're not ready to share. They're not ready for people to know that they've been through something so violating. But in our community, there doesn't have to be a reason. We just honor it. It is just honored. Um, and there is so much wisdom from those who came before us, who have done the work and can hold the space. It's a very powerful thing. And so to surround other people with that is like cloaking them in a care, with this innate knowing that it will be okay.
I'll just say ditto. And then the only thing I will add is, because I think this is very, very, very important, especially if like therapists ever listen, or people who like to do research, is there's not a lot of orgs that are peer led. And so it is like, I remember when I was in grad school and I would approach CG every time, like, hey, could we do a single, like not a single subject research, but like we were doing research. Hey, can we send this out? Because I knew the impact of the peer component, the peer led component. And, in that flip side of the school setting, it was helpful to show like the value of this peer led think that we were doing, or that was like CG, like that was going forward. And so I would just say in regards to that, and I think we're starting to see that more and more in like different orgs, but like having, like, there is so much wisdom um, in the peer led concept, and then also too in what they offer about healing, and about how to navigate through, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear us talk a lot about the need for professionally trained trauma therapists and all those things. And like, yes, of course, like we need people who have the skill sets and expertise to like directly address these things. And I think one of the things that's so important for people to understand is like we are the experiential experts. Like we know what it means to day in and day out be doing this thing and to need what we need and then try to figure out what we need and like get it for ourselves and all those different pieces of it that it is easy um to kind of like theorize on what is useful. It's a totally different thing to have people say, like, retreats are a great example. We started retreats because one of the community members was like, in a workshop, was just like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if we were able to like have everybody come together and like do this like weekend together? Like that was the inspiration for starting retreats. I was like, yes, that would be cool. We should probably do that. Um, and that is somebody recognizing like this would mean something. And I don't know that any amount of like theoretical research would have come up with that specifically. And we know it's like one of the most impactful things that we do. And so like that's really what's so key about being survivors ourselves and being willing to hold the space for other people to have their thoughts and feedback and suggestions, because those are the things that are changing people's lives. And getting the professional like assistance on the other side of that too, right? Like it's a multifaceted problem, so we need multifaceted solutions to it. All right, which actually goes nicely into the next one, which is trauma specific. We recognize the unique nature of healing from sexual violence.
I think being trauma specific like touches on the other three, right? Like we understand that because of this of sexual violence, like we need to figure out how to repair in relationships in a healthy way because a lot of us the violence was in a relationship and so they need to repair their own body's sense of safety, emotional sense of safety, but then also like how do you feel safe in a relationship again if the harm came through a relationship, right? So it's very specific to that type of trauma. And again, with the in needing to be enduring, like we understand that trauma like that is trauma against your body, and trauma against your body means your body remembers exactly what happened. And that kind of remembering is really like you don't unremember. Like your body will always remember that. And because of that, there will be ripples of those memories that come, and you will want long term support. And then with the survivor led, like um, what we've talked about with the peer support, like understanding that there's something about this type of trauma that in culture for some reason we shame it and we like don't know how to talk about it, and everyone else who hasn't experienced gets really uncomfortable, and some people who have experienced it and haven't dealt with it get even more uncomfortable. um, but for those who are wanting to heal, there is something so unique about looking in the eyes of somebody, saying the horrible thing that you can't say out in public, and them not looking away, and them not having pity in their eyes because like they fully understand what you're telling them. um and there's no questions on like why or how or what. They just like sit in it with you. um and it is a very specific shared experience that we like as a community hate that we all have this shared experience. Yet we understand that like there's something very, very powerful about owning that we have that shared experience and finding a way to create safety. Um, and one of the things I've heard a lot in programs is just like the way that we have our guidelines. So when you start a workshop with us, day one, we go over all of our guidelines, all of our rules on how to create a safe space. And one thing that I had said was like, the space is only safe if we make sure it's safe. Like one person can come in and blow through confidentiality and then no one's safe, right? Um, and so having it be very specific and um like purposefully Like we have made these ways to create that safety, and we have the building blocks so that like trust can be built. And obviously, like every person has to show up and do the things that we were asking them to do. And then we get the fun task of figuring out what to do if people don't do that. Um, but all of that is very specific to like what we understand the hardships that come along with experiencing what we all have experienced. And so we make it fit that. We make it fit the experience because, again, going back to survivor led, like everyone here knows this experience. So we know how to address the experience.
A lot of what we have shared has already spoken directly to the trauma specificity, got through that, of healing from sexual violence. When someone has endured, living through war, for example, there's no doubt that they endured the unimaginable. And I feel like people, our society as a whole, can hold some sort of space for veterans who struggle with PTSD. And there are specific groups, support groups, for veterans because only other veterans would truly understand what they have walked through. So with survivors, there can oftentimes be a stigma, like Joe was saying, like, is she telling the truth or what's the whole story? And even as something so horrible as like she was probably asking for it. Or I personally heard, why didn't you say anything? Um, so you have the healing from the sexual violence, the healing in this trauma, and then it's further layered by a society casting doubt to the survivor. Um, and here at LTS, we believe survivors, period. That stance in and of itself is incredibly healing. I mean, even as I'm saying it, I feel the healing um in the statement. And then what we do is we hold more space. We hold space for more healing. Um, and that's how I think that we truly address and point our direction north to be trauma specific.
Ditto again, and I'll make it brief. If I, this has always stuck to me. CG said one time, like, if you've met one survivor, you've met one survivor. And so that doesn't, so like we have this thing, right, where we've experienced, and there's this understanding kind of like our own, whatever, like veteran support group, right? Um, not on the same level, I guess. It's like on the same level, but a different level. And so we have this like shared experience. But then in the process of all of that, there's also those differences within it. And so we're learning from one another through that process, as we pursue the healing. So on trauma specific, that's why I fell in love with LTS. And so, I mean, I remember asking a million different questions before doing it. And then obviously just the approach that's taken in those community groups to ensure, and also like CG, I think you did it a while back, like there was a conversation on like confrontation, right? So when you do have people who don't respect those values that are in that group, right, and the things that are there in place to make it a place for all of us to be, it was talking about having hard conversations, in and around that. And so there's just some really good, it's just, yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And I will say, oh yeah, I said I was a ditto and I was going to make it short, and I really will. On the peer led portion, it is so pivotal because I 100%, obviously, as a therapist, believe in like the professional therapeutic setting, right? I cannot be what they need in that. Like that would be impossible and also unethical. Right. And so it's like that's why I'm always just like banging the drum on just how beautiful it is to have um especially Louder Than Silence be an org that's peer led. Because it's not like a task to be what other people need us to be, right? Because we've like learned boundaries and we're doing it healthy. But like but it's just magical. It's the magical hug. And I loved what you said. Like it's the hug that like when they need to step back, they can step back and that's okay. And if they find they need to step in again, they can. Like it's not a, you know, it's not, yeah, it's beautiful. Also, we did it. I mean, we have you to go CG, but we did it. I just need us to all acknowledge that.
Yes. Thank you. So one of the reasons why I wanted trauma specific as part of our like stated values is because we often hear a lot about the concept of trauma informed, right? Like in these spaces, which is great and is needed, right? It should be table stakes that we are creating spaces where people aren't being harmed additionally. Like that should be baseline, right? That we can agree people should be able to be in spaces with each other and not have to worry about additional harm. Not addressing the harm that they have once received, right? All it's doing is ensuring not future harm. And so specifying that we are trauma specific means that we are saying it's not just that we recognize how to not create more harm. We are specifically sitting in the space of this is what trauma has done so that it doesn't continue any longer. And obviously, like as we've said, it's a lifelong process and all those fun things. And this is what it looks like to say like we're in it, and it the I forget the exact quote, but it's basically the magnitude of the problem needs to have the same magnitude of solution. And so, what that means is significant long-term trauma-specific care to undo the harm that was done by this, like, very devastating series of violent actions that have happened. And we're doing it. Like, we're making it specific to the type of harm we've experienced, and that is healing, and that is a beautiful thing. And yeah. And I'm sure we could all have a much longer conversation about all of these things. And as always, thank you, ladies, for yet another amazing conversation. And I think we gotta wrap it from here. But thank you for listening to the Louder Than Silence podcast. If you'd like more information about our organization, visit us at louderthansilence.org or follow us on Instagram at louderthansilenceorg. This podcast and all of our programs at LTS come from your donations, so please consider donating today to support this work. And don't forget to subscribe for the most current episodes. We'll see you next month.